So let's dive right in to the story of Sergeant Derek Miller, who was paroled in May of this year after having spent 8 years in confinement at Leavenworth for killing a Taliban terrorist who reached for his gun. I'm joined now by Sergeant Derek Miller, military advisor to Representative Louis Gohmert, executive director of the Justice for Warriors Caucus, and Representative Ralph Norman from South Carolina, who is a member of the Congressional Justice for Warriors Caucus, and his goal and their goal to reform the military justice system. Sergeant and Representative, good to have you here.
Good morning.
Thank you for having us.
Well, Derek, I want to go to you first and bring us to where we are on your story.
Well, where we're at right now is, honestly, I am truly blessed to have this opportunity to be home, to have a second chance to be able to hold my daughters again. But there are so many soldiers who are confined at Leavenworth or under the threat of court-martial who have had their rights violated, who will lose that right. There's a upwards of 70% conviction rate in the military justice system, and even higher in these combat-related cases. So guys are going overseas, fighting for the Constitution, and when they get back and they go to these courtrooms, those rights are being violated. There's evidence being withheld. There is, malicious email, spying taking place. You saw that in the Eddie Gallagher case. And this stuff has to stop. You have to protect the rights of these soldiers when they put their lives on the line to go overseas. It's just inexcusable what that prosecution is doing. So the Justice for Warriors Caucus, after Congressman Gohmert and Congressman Elijah Cummings got together to support me coming home and to fight for me to have a second chance, gave me this opportunity, and now we're fighting for every soldier who has been court-martialed or under the threat of court-martial for these combat-related shootings.
There are a lot of similarities in the cases, and they're all different things. But, the principle of standing up for our warriors, and Derek, and then we'll go to you, Representative Norman. But, Derek, standing up for our warriors, oftentimes I hear from others like yourself and Eddie and others that the decisions, the convictions, or the charges are being brought by those not necessarily who haven't experienced the same, but aren't even willing to listen to what's going on in that moment, because this happens often in moments, this incident that then becomes charge and a battle, in your case, for 8 long years or more. And that is something that we should be concerned about, shouldn't we?
Very concerned about. I mean, you think about the level of training and dedication that goes into, sending an infantry soldier, a special forces operator out into combat. You're giving these guys the latitude to do their job and to protect their brothers and sisters in arms next to them. And then every minute detail down to what you ate in the morning is being scrutinized. And then ultimately, soldiers who are on the battlefield, who are making these decisions, who are fighting for their country, are not being afforded the protections that they're going overseas to fight for. And essentially, they're being cast away as pawns. I'm sorry to say it, but, there's appeasing these foreign governments, making sure that they have, the positive relationship to the detriment of these soldiers. They are being sacrificed, essentially. They're just casting them away. And it's happening more and more. And I think with the Justice for Warriors Caucus and the media outreach, that the American people will see and be highly concerned about what's happening to their soldiers.
Well, that's a perfect segue to you, Representative Norman. Again, Representative Ralph Norman from South Carolina, who is a member of the Justice for Warriors Caucus. You guys write the laws. You guys have the work to do. And this president and this administration has stood up and said, we will not surrender our warriors. I believe in the system. I believe in the UCMJ, but we have to have concerns when the system works against those who have raised their right hand.
Well, that's exactly right, David. And this president has demonstrated by his actions, in particular, Eddie Gallagher. Had Officer Gallagher not had the publicity, had his wife and brother not spoken up, and had Fox not covered it, he'd still be behind bars. And what the president did was get him out of the brig, and so he could get medical care and legal advice. And as Derek mentioned, it's unfair. It's two standards, one for civilians and one for our military. And when I saw the faces, one, when I heard Derek, who is extremely well-spoken, and when you hear his story and you say, really? He spent the years he did, and then when you see these soldiers say that of what they're going through, and to be judged by a panel, most of them, if not all of them, had never been in combat. And it's time to fight, and it's time to fight for those who fought for us and put their life on the line. And it's continuing to amaze me what happened, and I'm going to be at the next hearing, and we're going to take it to a new level as far as exposure, because it's not right. The process is not right. Convicting these soldiers, which they need a fair trial, and they're not getting it.
There are issues even within the military, and you use the example of the president ordering Eddie out of solitary confinement, but what actually happened next step was a colonel who had an objection to the president's order actually did not follow through on the orders of his commander-in-chief, and it took a second step to make sure that Eddie was out of solitary confinement. One issue there. Next is from the political world, Representative Norman. Are your Democrat colleagues, and I take Derek's point about Cummings and his part in this, but are your Democrat colleagues on board enough, not just one or two, but enough with doing something about making sure there is fair justice applied and proper process, due process for these soldiers?
They say they are, but I want to see some action, and I think Derek would agree. We want to see them actively join our caucus, actively get involved with learning the cases of the military men that are behind bars now, which are over 400 in Leavenworth, and then let's go to bat for them. I mean, these people, these soldiers risk their lives for us. If we can't get involved, not just with words, but with actions, there's something wrong. But I think they will. We're going to continue to ask that they come on board, and we want to see action and take this thing to a new level.